28 years since the birth of the franchise, Need for Speed Unbound has set out to make a scene for its record-breaking 25th entry within the adrenaline-pumping series. After 9 years of titles underneath Ghost Games, EA have assigned the development studio to be a Frostbite engine support team, leaving the franchise to be placed in different hands. The keys have been thrown back over to the old Hot Pursuit and Most Wanted developers, Criterion Games, as they chuck it into first gear and show off their work for the next iteration in the series. We were lucky enough to have an interview with the creative director, Kieran Crimmins, as he talks about how Need for Speed Unbound came to be an incredibly innovative and creative racing game.
Because we hadn't led a Need for Speed and we knew we were going to lead this one, there was a whole bunch of kind of ideas and inspiration and things we wanted to try out that have been bubbling up while we've been working on Battlefields and Battlefronts and other games of that kind of ilk. So we actually had a lot of ideas and we were pretty keen to get cracking. And we'd started some of the concept work before he even finished, as you would imagine, especially stuff. Although the stuff that they concept out then is certainly not the stuff that we went through into production with, but you can imagine we talk a lot about car games, we talk a lot about Need for Speed, so it was more like a rolling project rather than it felt like a big handover or anything like that.
Unbound features a radically different art style to any racing game in the genre, as it features graffiti-drawn animated effects that sync up with the actions of your car, and anime-style characters complete with their own customization. The series has evolved into some impressive graphical fidelity throughout the years, and it especially shows with this title. Work started on Unbound immediately after the launch of Heat, meaning there were 3 years of development time between releases, the longest gap in Need for Speed history.
There's always that drive from us to want to push the boundaries, to want to try something different, want to give something new to the genre back to the audience, something that doesn't exist already. But the actual choice to do that particular innovation mainly came from street art, I would say. Like, we have a lot of street art that Need for Speed is kind of synonymous with street culture. So as part of our thing, we were partnering with some really great street artists like JC Riviera and people like that. So we had their artwork all over the walls, whatever. And then we were also building the new handling system at the same time. It was kind of a flash of inspiration where we were struggling for feedback. And then we also had that art on the wall. And we were like, what if we use that art to do feedback? And then as soon as we tried it out and as soon as we did the first prototype, which, a Criterion, we don't make any decision without a prototype, without being able to feel whether it feels good to play. But as soon as we did the first prototype for that stuff and then put the burst nitrous system on it as well, it felt amazing. Fundamental thing about basing the game on the street racer fantasy and that risk and reward that can come with that street racer fantasy, and the things that have been in the games that I really love. I think about 2015 reboot, Need for Speed Heat, original Most Wanted, Burnout. They were all based around that street racer fantasy and that kind of risk and reward within it. I think that's the direction that we want to stick with, and that's the direction that we want to build upon. And don't get me wrong, there's technological direction we want to build upon as well. We've built a lot of systems in Frostbite, and it's a wonderful engine. But I think going forward, that's the thing that we want to keep, and that's the direction we want to keep too.
The new title doesn't only contain a new art style, but also features a change up to the handling model. Similar to Need for Speed Heat, the tap to drift mechanic returns, but with the availability to be disabled entirely. Having this option allows both the casual and hardcore audiences to choose on what they feel is right for them, as no option is the ultimate correct choice. The well-known boost system has also seen a shake-up in this title, as it features something new to keep players engaged.
We always have the remit of easy to pick up, hard to master, and that's a kind of like, I think we've got it printed on one of the walls, Criterion somewhere, and that means that when you first pick up and play, it's an arcade game at its heart. It should be easy to control. You should be able to having a great time straight out the bat, and you should be able to feel like you're driving as a hero. We actually call it the heroic handling system, and that's all down to the assist. So that's all down to making it feel as familiar and as comfortable to your driving style as possible, and also allowing you to do things that you would never do in a, if you were playing those kind of things in a sim game, you wanted to do, I don't know, a J turn, like you do a J turn without our assist, it would be very, very hard to do. But in our game, you should be able to pick it up pretty intuitively. But that doesn't mean that it's binary or there's no mastery in there. There's still, because we have that depth of that wonderful simulation and calculation, the more you play it, the more you kind of expose the underlying kind of simulation, as it were, which means that there's a massive sense of depth there for you to master and get really, really good, and play the game for 100 hours and it's like a totally different game because of that kind of system. But when it comes to the driving effects and the burst nitrous system, which is almost like a layer on top of those kind of handling system we build. So yes, we build that stuff first. We have to make sure the fundamentals are there. It has to be fun first. It has to be fun for pretty much everyone to be able to pick up and play. And you know, it's a racing game. That's the bread and butter. That's the core, right? You can't make a good racing game without a good handling system, I don't think. But then once you've got that, then there's another level of engagement, which is more about, if you think like that's your second to second, then what's your kind of minute to minute engagement? And we love to experiment with different kind of boost systems. If you've seen our games, we've had about 5 different boost systems in the game, and they've usually got a direction behind them. There's a reason. Like in Burnout, it's a white knuckle ride. You only need to stay boosting for as long as possible and try and like chain that boost. And if you manage to chain that boost without crashing, you get another one and you can keep chaining it. And that was all giving you this kind of like super intense experience, which is I absolutely love. I love those games. But Need for Speed is more about smaller moments of mastery. So it's like you do the perfect drift, you do the perfect draft and then overtake, or you take the corner and do a perfect jump to get over the thing. So the Burst Nitro system is made in a way that every time you do something that's a little moment of mastery, you get a little bit of boost for that mastery, and it's actually timed in the Burst Nitro system moment. So you know you're doing it because you'll see some of the visceral kind of effects coming out, and you'll know that meter's getting filled up. And then but if you don't use it in time, then you'll lose the kind of the benefit of doing those things. So the kind of player action that we're trying to encourage is you to combo little moments of mastery, like 3 or 4 in a row, and then use the boost at its level 3 Burst Nitro system, so that it becomes a game. It's almost like Tony Hawk's in a way. You know, you do a little combo of cool driving things, and then you tactically use it right at the right time to, you know, do a really even cooler, like a super move, if you will. That's the system that we were originally building, and then this kind of visceral feedback mechanism through the graffiti comes to life is what we use to kind of illustrate it to the player so they could understand exactly what they're doing. When I see people playing at the moment, and they'll use it completely intuitively, like they'll do a drift and then they'll do a draft and then they'll get the perfect draft and they'll take over and they'll be like, oh, that felt amazing. Like they basically do that little combo. They'll never really understand that game design that I just talked about, but when I see the players do it, it brings me so much joy because it's such a wonderful and fun way to play a game, and it was the original design intent around that mechanic.
With a radical shake-up to the series also comes a new challenge. As the industry demands more power, higher frame rates and larger resolutions, the possibility of playing on a previous generation console becomes a challenge for the new titles, which are unfortunately left out in most modern releases. This is also the story for Unbound, as zooming across Lakeshore City will require a beefy system to handle.
The stuff we can do on current gen consoles is just so much better than what we could do on previous gen. We wanted to double down on it. We wanted to deliver the best possible experience to the players that could play it, and that was all on current gen. Playing it all at like 4K, 60 frames a second, HDR is an absolutely transformative racing game experience, and like that with the new physics system and the new handling and the new effects and new graphics, it's just, I feel like anyone that plays it will totally understand it, but I can understand other people being you know, don't get me wrong, it's a shame. I would love to release on everything from, you know, your Casio watch to your HD TV, but we want to make the best, you know, we want to make the best possible player experience we can, and that was on current gen.
Finally, the key aim from Criterion Games has always been to provide an incredible user experience. Our full review will be out soon, as there's a lot to unpack and delve into, and we want to fully flesh out everything the game has to offer before delivering our final verdict.
I'm already in absolute joy watching people play the game and experiencing the things that we wanted them to experience, and our goal is always to provide the very best player experience possible, and hopefully they can love us. Now, you can't please everyone, especially with the Need for Speed library of games that is varied and different so much, which some people might say is a weakness, but I think it's a strength of the series, is that there's always going to be something new and interesting in there. But for those people that really love it, and those people that get to the, you know, experience the emotions that those systems were designed for, that's why we do this. It brings me so much joy to see them play it. So yeah, do let me know if anyone likes the game or had a good time, or even not, do let me know.
A big thank you to Kieran Crimmins for giving us his time throughout his insanely busy schedule, and also a thank you to Criterion Games and Electronic Arts for delivering another title within the Need for Speed series. Make sure you subscribe to the Traxion channel to become notified when our review comes out very soon, and please do let us know down in the comments below if you've been playing the game and how you found it. Until then, thank you so much for watching, keep it pinned, and have a great day.